Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Maqbool with you at Pitafi World with Farrukh, Pitafi and Faisal. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is with reference to what is going on politically in Pakistan, especially given the statement coming in from Mr. Bilawal Zardari, talking about the earlier statement given from the former president, Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, regarding the date and time of elections. And of course, the fact that this was something that Mr. Zardari was talking about, the delimitations need to be held before the elections can take place, which was refuted by Mr. Bilawal, claiming that the CC meeting decided that the constitution has chalked out 90 days time period, and this is what the party stands by, and this is something that they want to make sure of. It was very clear in terms of what he said, that he was in disagreement with his father and obviously the co-chairperson of the party as well. Interestingly enough, a lot of people looking at the situation are analyzing this to be a tactic in order to bring in more support, especially coming in from the youth for the PPP leader and then also for the party. And then in terms of what is actually happening, they seem that it's not a big deal. This apparently is not the first time that certain disagreements have been held, which is of course believable, but in terms of what has come out of the party, this perhaps is the first time that such news has been coming in, where people now have observed this and have seen this publicly happening. So what sort of course will the PPP be taking regarding this in terms of what is going to be the decision-making process? What sort of aspects will be taken into account when the two leaders are in disagreement, and how do they move forward with it? Of course, the CEC is a platform which Mr. Bilawal believes is the right one to share anyone's opinion and any grievance that anyone might have, and that this needs to be discussed through that. And on party policy matters, that is a platform that is in fact used, and the PPP is going to be moving ahead with it, as he is also bound by the decisions of the party workers and leader. So it's going to be an interesting view in terms of what is happening, why exactly is it happening, what sort of benefit is it going to be gaining, and then what sort of stance will the party now be taking in, particularly in terms of what the two leaders have called for, and how will that impact party politics and relationships, obviously of course also within the party as well, where it seems that the unilateral approach of Mr. Asif Ali Zardari is something that is being rejected. That is going to be our focus in the first segment of the show today. Our next one is going to be taking a look at the 22nd anniversary of the attacks that happened back in 9/11, and this is of course important, especially in Pakistan's perspective as well, because as three important areas of the US were targeted, including New York, Pentagon and Pennsylvania, and of course we know that in a series of attacks, the Al-Qaeda had also managed to target these political and financial capitals, and then also unfortunately resulted in the loss of more than 3,000 lives. And it also changed the course of people around the world altogether, especially in terms of the war against terrorism, which despite of course the best measures also taken by a lot of political leaders and decision makers, still continues today. And Pakistan is also one of those countries which is still facing the issue of terrorism within the country. And so we're going to try and see how far we've come in the 22 years and what sort of impact still remains of 9/11, especially in Pakistan. For this, of course, Farrukh and Faisal are with me in the studios for our first segment regarding the political dynamics of Pakistan, especially the PPP. We've been joined by Mr. Zulfikar, spokesman of the chairman PPP. Thank you very much, Zulfikar Saab, for also being part of the discussion and of course being with us today. But Faisal, let me take in your opinion as first in terms of what is going on. A lot of analysts seem to believe that this is just a tactic that is being used to draw in more support for the party leader, particularly Mr. Bilawal, and this is something that is being done in fact in agreement by both the leaders, and it's just a fact, just a show in terms of the kind of support that this will potentially get them. Is that your opinion as well?
Yeah, Sanab, what I believe, obviously, People's Party, whenever we talk about People's Party, of course, it is the Bhutto's ideology, plus later on we saw that former President Zardari, he had obviously his influence, and in recent years what we saw that the politics of People's Party, it was all about the decision making from Zardari, President Zardari, and right now of course it is a phase of People's Party where they have to obviously switch from President Zardari's ideology to once again the Bhutto's ideology. And for the Bhutto's ideology, the perfect man there is obviously Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, who would obviously want to run his party through his own ideology and through his own,
correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand is that you're saying that Mr. Asif Ali Zardari is not following in the footsteps of Mr. Bhutto, or he has a different approach than Bhutto?
Yeah, he had a different approach, and we have seen on certain aspects of the politics when we saw that President Zardari, he had a different stance from the People's Party. People's Party itself, if we talk about it, never if it always stood for the constitution. But if we look at the People's Party of the last previous tenure, of course the PDM, the way they were keeping the things going,
but when did they go against constitution?
Well, obviously I'm talking about the elections. I mean, previously we saw that they had a narrative in which they said that the Supreme Court should be, awarding by itself, and if Election Commission is giving a different date, they won't be having any problems. And or even on the delimitations, everyone knew while they were accepting the delimitation at that time, it was obvious that the elections would not be taking place within the time frame of 90 days.
Okay.
But now obviously it is part of the constitution that the elections should be held within the time frame of 90 days. If PDM of yesterday, including obviously the People's Party, they were of the view that that's fine, we should go towards the delimitation, that meant that they will not be standing for their verdict on the constitution,
okay,
that the elections should be held within 90 days. That is why we are seeing right now that Bilawal, of course, he is advocating that we should be going towards the elections in terms of as the constitution says, that is within 90 days.
Okay.
So basically this is the point of contention which I can see, and yes, there are analysts who believe that internally they might be on the same page, but of course outside.
And that is your opinion as well?
That is my opinion.
Okay.
Bilawal wants to sort of re-drag his own ideology, the People's Party's ideology, and he wants to assure the people that we were with the PDM, but we have our own identity.
Okay, and I'll come back to you and question this premise a bit further to try and understand where you're coming from. But let us also welcome in the debate Mr. Zulfikar Ali Badr, spokesman to Chairman PPP, who joined us online. Thank you very much, Badr Saab, for joining us. And let's play a game of truth or false, because we really want to understand what is happening. Is this a tactic or not?
I beg your pardon.
Yes, continue.
Can you please repeat the question?
No, dear, just truth or false. My question is, a lot of people are saying that this is a tactic, the disagreement that we see between Mr. Bilawal and Mr. Zardari. Is that true or not?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Sana, for inviting me to your show. You see, it's just a different perception of the people that this is agreement or this is not agreement, and there's some kind of a collaboration between the father and son is not something which we are saying. It's just that two people are saying one thing in different ways, and they are two different interpretations for this, and people are taking things on a different notes. The father never said that constitution should party or
Right. Can you hear me? What you're essentially saying is that they're both saying the same thing, and it's just a matter of interpretation. I thought they were both saying different things.
Actually, Mr. Zardari has said something which is little bit different from what Mr. Bilawal has been saying it, because Mr. Bilawal has been asking for the election, what constitution is saying to be held within 90 days. So Zardari Saab has said something different, and over and above, Mr. Bilawal Saab has already clarified that he is bound to follow his father in his house, but he is bound to follow the constitution, the party, and the members of the CEC, what party policy is. So there is a very much clarity in it. So I think they are two different people, and we should respect their opinion. And it's a good thing that being a good son, he follows his father in his house. But as a party leader, he is the person who gives the policy of the party. So, and we should
Zulfikar Sahab,
respect his.
Zulfikar Sahab, if we follow the both, obviously both of them, they are talking two different things. So if we follow, if People's Party follows the both things, where does People's Party stand?
You see, the clarity will come once Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari will be reaching to Lahore and they will be conducting a party CEC meeting, and both the statements and both the things are going to dovetail and come out a concluding statement where party line is going to come out. So mainly the party line comes when chairman of the Pakistan People's Party says something that is the party policy. So
All right.
Mr. Asif Ali Zardari is also the president of Pakistan People's Party parliamentarian, and his words means a lot. But Bilawal Saab has to see what the party says and what the constitution says. He said, don't listen to me, don't listen to my father. Follow what constitution says. So I think
Right, absolutely.
it's a good thing that there is a,
I'll come back to you
respect
as
of
well further
opinion
because I want to
between
talk a
father and
little
son
bit more
and
about
between two
the
party
CEC
leaders
meeting.
within a party.
I'll come back to you about the CEC meeting because there's more to discuss there. But before that, let me also take in Farrukh's opinion as to whether or not he believes that this is a tactic being used or not.
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the opportunity. I thought that it will take a little bit more time for me to get the mic, but finally I did get it. I have to actually remind you of something very interesting that happened. This time when Bilawal actually said whatever he said, immediately I saw that commentators, especially print media commentators, started calling it a good cop, bad cop policy. Amazingly, this kind of pre-planned kind of interaction or commentary was seen before as well when the last time People's Party was ruling the country and they had their prime minister. At that time, Hafiz Sheikh's name came up as the finance minister who could be potentially the prime minister. And I saw that similar kind of commentary immediately declared him a failure, right? Just because university professors were protesting because of fees or salaries or something of that sort. So always take anything that comes from the media with a pinch of salt because there are many competing values and competing thoughts that might be there. I was amazed by Faisal's assertion that Asif Ali Zardari actually turned away from Bhutto's legacy or his position. I think that Bhutto Saab actually got entrenched into the system by cooperating with a dictator, right? And then, of course, he came up with a constitution. I think if today People's Party is standing, it is because of Asif Ali Zardari, especially after the assassination of Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto, right? And Asif Ali Zardari and Shehbaz Sharif are two people who have actually redeemed their image, in my eye at least, in the past 14, 15 months when they were in government. Because they actually showed us that they are interested in saving the system, not only saving their own political parties. Having said that, one person actually outshined at that time, and that was Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Remember, there were people who actually destroyed their legacy. Ishaq Dar literally destroyed his legacy, right, by actually forcing himself upon this nation. But regarding Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, he stood out, and I think he reminds you of Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto's policies, where actually she would actually stand up to the system, and she would brave any storm. So Bilawal's statement, I think, is his opinion. And why is it when we talk about PMLN, we always think that Shehbaz Sharif and Nawaz Sharif have different worldviews. They do, right? Why can't we actually assimilate or process this thing that Asif Ali Zardari wants to work with the system and will of the system, but Bilawal is entitled to and might have his own opinion.
Do you
if
think
he
it's because
does,
it's the first time it's happening, or publicly at least?
I think repeatedly it happened when Bilawal Bhutto Zardari came back to the country after assassination of the party leader. At that time, he made a statement that the party had a very difficult time taking back when he said that the longevity of the chairman is usually not guaranteed. So I'm not a chairman. I might actually become a chairman later on or something of that sort. But I think that he is his own man. He has been brought up by Benazir Bhutto and Asif Ali Zardari. I think at this moment, in the current slate of candidates for premiership, he is A, young, B, he is also very articulate and smart guy, and C, he is also actually understanding the populist politics. So why not? I think that he is entitled, and it's okay if he actually disagrees with his father. Our media has this habit of infantilizing leaders, right? This is exactly what kept on happening to Maryam Nawaz as well. You have to realize that these people are now adults and they have come into their own, and they can actually carry a policy independently as well. I think that healthy disagreement is okay. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari hasn't actually gone to the court against his father, has he? So why actually complicate the matter?
Right. Zulfikar Sahab, of course, as we were discussing, and what a lot of people have reported also, is that this is not the first time that such a disagreement has happened. But then why is it that it's getting so much attention now than it did before, especially in terms of what the media is talking about, how instantly we saw that the review that was coming in was of the fact that this is just a measure of gaining more support for Mr. Bilawal. Is there any lack of support for this to actually be considered as a tactic?
You know, media is always looking for something spicy to spice up the news in the media. So they were looking for something that comes out which has like two different opinions, and we must respect two different opinions. But that doesn't mean that the father and son they have a difference. They can have a different opinion, different perception about something, but they are on the same page and they don't have any difference of opinion in terms of running the party, or but they can have different thoughts, and we should respect them. So media is just picking up different two different opinions of father and son, and they are just spicing that up, and that thing people want to hear that kind of stuff, and is being sold in the market and people are buying it. People want something spice up which has like you know having two different opinions, and they are telling people, and the stories are being made up, or people are making up stories in the media that father is having a different opinion and son is having a different opinion, and there is a difference of opinion between them, uh, and these kind of
Quite an
things they
age-old
sell,
story also, to
and
be
they
honest.
sell like
Father-son disagreement. It's not even spicy, but yes, continue.
so. In fact, if we look at the things, so the Mr. Zardari is a very, mature person. He always respect, and he listens to his son, and he always tell him, he always mentor him, he always, guide him. But Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, being the son of the Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto, he has his own point of view about politics. I remember back in the days, Mr. Zardari was telling my father that, I told Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari back in 2013 that our party will have to buy the airtime on the television on different media, and you will have to come on the media, and you are going to talk on media and express and convince the people for the election campaign. And right away he stopped Mr. Zardari's father, and he said, "Oh, this is not our PPP. That's not the party of my mother, who sits on the television and who do campaign on the television. I will have to go out in the public, and I will have to go for convincing, in the streets." So this is what Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is all about. He understands that he will have to go in the public, in the grassroots level, to the people at the grassroots level, and he will have to communicate with them, he will have to interact with them. So he understands this thing, and that is the basics of politics, because you cannot stay away from, and you have to actually have a substantial thoughts and substantial ideology which you have to sell it to people, and people have to understand that thing for connecting to the people at the grassroots level. And
Yes,
whatever.
Zulfikar Sahab, if we talk about appearing on television, obviously we are doing this program right now on PTV World, and I remember in 70s, of course, Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto herself used to appear on PTV, and she used to conduct one of the shows at that time, and we being PTV World, obviously we are very proud of it, and we are very proud of that fact. I just wanted to come towards another question. When we talk about obviously differences between Bilawal and his father, can we say that the politics of compromises is associated with President Zardari? And if we talk about obviously Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, he is someone who wants his own ideology to obviously overcome this phenomenon of compromises which is attached with People's Party. Is this the fact about today's differences?
No, there is no difference of opinion. There is difference of thought, and there are no differences between father and sons. I must clarify this. They both are on the same page. But let me tell you, Mr. Asif Ali Zardari believes in the
We
politics
don't really
of
see that same
reconciliation.
page actually.
Mr. Asif Ali Zardari believes in the politics of reconciliation, and Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari believes in the politics of struggle and going to the people and meeting and interacting with the people at the grassroots. He believes in making party organization strong and connecting to the people. So these are two different things, but at the end of the day, when you join and dovetail both the thoughts and two opinions at coming on the same platform of the party CC, I think a more stronger and joint thing will come out of these two opinions.
Absolutely. I'm so
and
glad you
party
said
will.
that, Zulfikar Sahab, because that is of course the hope from any CAC meeting or any consultative meeting where different leaders talk and disagree and share their opinion, but then actually a strong joint opinion actually comes out. But that's the part where I want to focus more, Farrukh, because irrespective whether there's disagreement between father and son and two leaders, the fact is that if there was a decision within a CEC meeting, why did then Mr. Asif Ali Zardari come and claim something else or talk something that now is being taken as a unilateral statement that wasn't what the party actually believes in, of a matter that is being much debated about?
Right. So People's Party, like any other party, has many people in it, right? Of course, Zardari Sahab, by virtue of being head of Pakistan People's Party parliamentarians head, of course, has his own voice, and it is important. But we have seen this playing out in People's Party repeatedly. At no time we saw any leader, all leaders actually, for a reading from the same hymn sheet. We saw it Azaz Hassan, we saw similar Khosa's example as well. So is there any harm in somebody on one side saying something which is close to his heart, and then it might be his son, but he is a politician in his own right. If he says something else, why are we so worried? The concern that I have, and that actually is something that you might actually find interesting, is what Bilawal said about his allies. The parties with whom he was sitting only a couple of weeks ago in the parliament and also in the ministry. So he said that some of our coalition partners are running away from elections, right? And I think that is more a menace comment on where political parties might be. But People's Party is facing a couple of very interesting challenges. For example, there was this talk of possible seat adjustment between PML and People's Party in Punjab. That did not happen, right? And there is always a possibility that People's Party is not happy with that idea. Similarly, there was some recent reaction to the, not reaction, some crackdown on alleged corruption cases, and we kept on hearing reports of that as well, that there were People's Party office bearers who were actually being arraigned or raided or something of that sort. So it can be also a reaction to that too, because in that scenario, anybody who's working with the current establishment, and of course, if PMLN is also reading from the same hymn sheet, so People's Party will always want itself to look independent and always be able to say that we are being victimized. But very quickly, I just wanted to point out, as long as People's Party makes it clear that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is its prime ministerial candidate, I think that he is the not so secret weapon, but very effective weapon, because there are so many people whom I've talked to who were fence sitters in the 2018 elections, and they actually went with PTI before. And if they have started saying that one party we are not going to vote for is PMLN, and we might actually, because Bilawal, what he says appeals to us, maybe we might actually vote for him. So People's Party has a serious shot as long as Bilawal is the candidate. But of course, blow hot, blow cold, whether it is by design or whether it is something that is, internal to the party itself, it's okay.
Okay, so what I also want to understand, Farrukh, then is that the statement coming in from Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, you think is not something that points towards the character of the party being undemocratic?
Why would you call it undemocratic? This is the party that gave you the constitution.
Right, exactly.
And Asif Ali Zardari is a man who actually had returned his own powers when he was president. He was the first president to do that. Who else did it? I mean, why call it undemocratic when they have been most democratic of them all?
But within the party, you think there are also democratic practices going?
Well, I think their patience and tolerance of dissent has been quite unique. You mentioned CEC. CEC. Last time Asif Ali Zardari Saab actually went to CEC, and there Etazaz Hassan was sitting, right? Etazaz Hassan, who has taken all the positions of PTI. What happened? He was not expelled. Asif Ali Zardari left the meeting. So there is democracy in the party.
Yeah,
Right.
Zulfikar Saab, my question was related to this fact. Obviously, in CEC, we saw there were obviously them faces as well, whom we've been seeing in recent past, that they have been very critical when it comes to, highlighting the constitution, and obviously they want the country to be run obviously with the constitution as they believe that this is right. And we are seeing obviously the position of Bilawal Bhutto right now is quite sort of similar to their position. Can we say that Bilawal Bhutto is reiterating to the friends of her mother that I am standing where my mother was standing and I need your help once more?
I'm pretty sure Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has a very clear stance, and while allowing Mr. Etazaz Hassan to come and sit and attend the meeting of CC, he believes in party democracy, and he believes that we should agree to disagree. And he has respected the difference of opinion with the party, other leaders who have been talking. But the only issue that we talk about and we ask the party leaders, when you have a difference of opinion or you have your own opinion from the party policy, you should come on the party platform and talk inside the party meetings rather than going in the media and talking on the media. So this is the thing that we ask from, while many of the leaders, while they sit in the party meetings, they have difference of opinion from the party policy or from the policy or from the opinion of the leader, but they talk within the party meetings. Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has a clear stance. He has been taking the same stance as Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto Sahaba has taken, and he has been out for the struggle for the restoration of rule of law, to asking the government and ECP to conduct the election within 90 days, what the constitution is saying. So this is what he has been asking for. And if there is any ambiguity in calling the election and within 90 days, he said the election schedule should be announced, so there should be a clarity that when there is going to be election in the country, because people want to know, they want to know the clarity coming in the minds, because there are a number of issues that caretaker government cannot take those decisions, and which elected government can only take the decisions. So there has to be a clarity of elections within the country. So people should come and join the process and due process of elections and start their election campaign.
Okay.
Sana, very quickly, I
Yes.
wanted to respond to Faisal's point of view regarding Etazaz Hasan somehow carrying the torch that was burning in the hands of, Benazir Bhutto. I think that there has to be a distinction also between Latif Khosa, who has never been ideological, and Etazaz Hasan, who was intellectual, fountainhead of the party. But something has happened since last time People's Party was in power, and that is that somehow Etazaz Hasan was also, he felt alienated. So right now, I don't know which ideology is Faisal talking about. Is it Zaman Park ideology or is it Bahria Town ideology? Because he has actually, for a long time, Etazaz Hasan was supporter of, for Iftihar Chaudhry and his movement. And later on behalf of Bahria Town, he was one of the, people who actually went after him as well.
Right.
So at this moment, I think that anybody who is actually kidding themselves, that anybody who actually disagrees with the main philosophy of a party or decisions of a party is somehow ideological, is actually kidding themselves.
Right.
Yeah,
And Faisal, I'd love for you to respond to that because I won't let you hide behind questions. Only I get to do that. So since you're also of the opinion in terms of how this may have been something that has been planned out by the party, I also want to know whether you think that this can be a benefit in terms of actually having both opinions on ground and then going with either one eventually when the time comes, and that may be one of the factors that such a decision has been taken, of course, in your opinion, as you say, it's planned.
Yes, Sana, both of the ideologies are very safe ideologies in the current political situation of Pakistan. Obviously, one side of People's Party is portraying that they are open to negotiations related to the upcoming date for the elections, and they are very flexible in it. And the party, as we are seeing the two different narratives coming out. It shows that they are very flexible, and they are the ones who can be negotiated with.
Good save.
Yeah. And to be, I think earlier, as Farrukh Bhai pointed out, which ideology obviously Etazaz Hasan is pursuing, he mentioned one ideology, and that is related to Zaman Park. I think he has nothing to do with that ideology.
Why
yes,
not?
he has a house there. Yes, he has a house
Proximity has an effect, Faisal.
Yeah.
Your influence keeps on seeping into my ideology as well. So proximity has an influence.
Yeah, to me, I think when I said earlier that obviously there were in CEC there were voices, and them voices are addressed by Bilawal Bhutto, knowing the fact that they two prominent voices. One of them obviously Etazaz Hasan, who happens to be long-term obviously political associate of People's Party and the leadership of the People's Party.
By long term you mean 1980s?
Oh, long
because
time.
Before
long
that
time.
he was before that do you know where he was? He was not with this party.
Yeah, he used to be Interior Minister of.
Before that.
Yeah, before that he was not there. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, there was another party.
It was. What I wanted to say
led
is,
by an air marshal.
yeah, there's another, and at that time obviously populous he was, and there is another personality. Of course, we are seeing quite a lot on social media and media as well. It is that personality is being criticized as well. He happened to be the previous former obviously governor of Punjab. I'm talking about Khosa Sahab. So two prominent names, and Bilawal Bhutto, he rightly knows that both of them people, they are very well respected in the lawyers. And when it comes to lawyers, obviously People's Party being a democratic party, it does not want to obviously push away all of the lawyers and lawyer movements and all of that. So that is why I think this kind of stance is coming from them.
All right, Zulfikar Saab, one last question with reference to what is going on. I also want to know, given the previous statement before the end of the previous government's tenure, there was also coming in a statement from Mr. Bilawal that there needs to be a shift in the way that the elders make certain decisions, pointing towards the fact that the situation or politics should be made easier for people like him or Mariam Nawaz. And I want to understand exactly what sort of policy matters or areas or aspects is he referring to or talking about, because because of course this disagreement is also being taken a look at with the same sort of statement made earlier, a reference in which he maybe perhaps is looking for a broader or more fundamental shift from how his father views things.
Basically, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, when he was talking on the floor of the House, he was talking about that we should keep the political decisions in our mind before, doing any particular thing in the country. Because when we start taking decisions as as the opponents of somebody, and we start taking the political opponents as our personal opponents. So that is where the difference comes, because we have to think politically, not personally, or we should not have that enmity, personal enmity with people. So the decisions in the country, that's why he referred to his father and me and Nawaz Sharif Saab, that the political decisions in the country should be taken politically. And in the coming future, the politics should be, there should be a politics of comfort in the country, not the politics of enmity, that we should respect, we should honor, and we should have a dialogue and negotiation with each other while being the opponents, having two different ideologies and two different parties. We should respect each other. And so they should not take those decisions which will bring, discomfort in the politics of Pakistan as it's happening now. So he was of the opinion of all those things, that all decisions should be political decision, not on the basis of personal enmity. So it was a message to the political and to all the people who matter, that we should we should stop experimenting in Pakistan, and we should rather put our foot on the ground and let the political process take its
Right.
time.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Zulfikar Saab, for being a part of the debate. And yes, Farrukh.
Two very quick observations that I wanted to actually bring in here. One, regarding media, I know that there are certain ideological oriented media groups that actually are really against People's Party. And today we saw one of the leading channels, right, actually trying to confront Bilawal with his own statements. And this is what I want to remind everybody, that when last time this happened, Hafiz Sheikh and all, I think at that time they were the ones who were in driving seat. They might be able to actually set the narrative that way, but this time it is not going to happen, sir. Sir, this time you are not actually building the narrative, we are. So this is one thing. The second thing, very important, regarding what Badr Saab was saying, that Bilawal wants to go to among the people, not on television. I think Donald Trump showed you the way. He went everywhere, wherever he could. Even if it was a podcaster, he would actually call in. And I think exposure is something that has a lingering effect. So if you want to build your product or your identity, at least go everywhere where you can.
Right, absolutely. We're now going to talk a little bit about the 22nd anniversary of 9/11 attacks, and something, of course, that impacted not only Pakistan but the entire world. Faisal, given the situation, I suppose you guys were both giving each other the floor of the house, but I get to decide. Faisal, so when we take a look at the past 22 years, of course, the world has evolved from where it first started. The attack itself was a big change to the world order, and then of course since then there's been numerous other incidents and ripple effects that are still continuing to this day. How different do you think the world is 22 years later, and what sort of a perspective do you think has changed for Pakistan as well, given how we immediately post 9/11 acted and how we want to act today?
Well, to me, 9/11, obviously, it was highly unfortunate on 9/11. The incident itself, it was highly unfortunate, and obviously it was a barbaric incident that took place. And of course, the later on we saw the shape of the world, it was quite different. And 3,000 people gave lives, obviously, in that incident. But later on, me as a Pakistani, we always, I always think about the 70,000 lives we have given to this war on terror, which was simply imposed on Pakistan because Pakistan had nothing to do with whatever happened in New York or Washington.
But did we also not choose to be part of it?
We did, but in a larger interest of the world. Obviously, we were the partners of the Americans in war on terror and largely the whole world. And I think that was quite sane of Pakistan to do that at that time because, of course, there were only two sides. Either you're with the terrorists or you're against them. So, of course,
is there another side?
Well, the other side was obviously the one we were standing on, that was we were fighting against the terrorism. For 20 years we fought that terrorism, and of course initially it was considered as obviously it was somebody else's war, but later on when we were the worst hit, of course Pakistan itself realized that the war is not confined within the borders of Afghanistan anymore. It is obviously outreaching Pakistan, and it was affecting Pakistan very badly. $220 billion we lost in this war, and we kept on telling the world that we are the worst hit, but still there were instances when we were said that we need to do more. I don't know what kind of do more that was, which was required by Pakistan at that time. But of course, Pakistan has gone through a lot in 20 years. Of course, Afghanistan, people of Afghanistan, they gone through a lot. And yes, the world at that time, they did go through, but later on, of course, it was all about our own region.
Right.
And now, after 22 years, of course, I was very young at that time. I was 18-year-old when it all took place. And later on, my whole life, the thinkful life, the thoughtful life, I have spent obviously years in Europe as well. And I saw people having a sort of, making a mind about other people's, especially about the Muslims. The term of Islamophobia, it was coined in at that time, and of course the Muslims throughout the world, they were looked into as if they are terrorists. And I know not every Muslim was a terrorist, and we were labeled as if we are Muslims, we are terrorists.
Absolutely. I want to explore that a bit further because what you're saying, I know, is in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, but aren't these issues that we're still dealing with today as well, issues such as Islamophobia, issues such as terrorism, not only in Pakistan but around the world? What has changed in terms of our understanding of terrorism and how we need to respond it both for ourselves and then also globally?
Right, Sana. First of all, regarding 9/11 itself, what happened on that tragic day was a crime against humanity, and I think that it was acknowledged by the UN at that time. I think there wasn't any country that was vetoing the idea of some kind of reciprocal action.
Okay.
But no, I think so far so good. The actual target or person who was responsible was Osama bin Laden, and I think that as soon as the US actually went into Afghanistan, they lost the sight of the target itself, and they became something else, and that actually transformed us as well. I want to agree with Faisal and I want to disagree with Faisal. Faisal, when he says that we have sacrificed a lot, absolutely, I think if today the world is safer place because there's less violence, that is because of primarily Pakistan that actually fought the battle on its own turf, its own ground. It is very difficult to do it. America so far has not acknowledged the white supremacist groups as terror threat on neo-Nazis just because it is so difficult to confront their own people. Right? But then what happened was that the way the war was fought, and where I disagree with Faisal, I disagree with Faisal that it was at some time not our war. Because, militancy and terrorism are like cancer. You might not know it, but they are there. And the moment you start confronting them, then they actually fight back. So what happened was that before 9/11 also, Pakistan was known to be a place where you had sectarian terrorism. One of the prime minister was attacked, Mian Nawaz Sharif, when he was about to cross a bridge that was blown up. Similarly, Benazir Bhutto was a target also. So I believe that we always were in this fight. We did not know it, but when the entire world actually pressured us, we actually went for it. And finally, we have actually gained substantial ground.
Yeah.
Now, my problem is the way neocons and the Bush administration actually handled it. First, they actually let go Osama bin Laden. But the calls for Tora Bora action was supposed to be very serious, and they actually did not go for the hammer and anvil policy that could have ensured that that man is tracked immediately.
Right.
Because they had to go to other wild goose chases. For example, they had to go to Iraq, right? And then there is a beautiful book called Reign of Terror by Spencer Ackerman.
Okay.
I think it actually does an amazing thing. It starts from 9/11 and what policies were taken during war on terror, especially that high interrogation tactics or torture.
Yeah.
And then it connects to how Donald Trump actually emerged.
Okay.
And it shows that how the entire world was broken by Bush administration's haste and their bad policies.
Okay.
So I think that it's a mixed bag. After 22 years, America has lost many people. We have lost countless. And I think we still are. But the fact is terrorism was a threat, but it broke the world in such a way that the West hasn't been the same, that Muslim world hasn't been the same. India is the worst example
Right.
of how badly Islamophobia has damaged their minds, that they have become horrible
Right.
to their own people.
Right, absolutely. So many people, of course, have been impacted, and this is something that we all must understand, that wherever there are acts of terror, there is no end to our war against terrorism. So it's not just about what's going on in Pakistan, it's about what's happening anywhere in the world, and we condemn it in all its forms. That's all we have from the debate. We'll now see you tomorrow.